Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today. Welcome to filmandtvreview.com. Catch the latest film, TV and streamed show reviews every week. The views and opinions expressed by the authors and those providing comments are theirs alone. They do not reflect the views, opinions or position of Film and TV Review.com or their respective parent companies or affiliates. Film and TV Review.com makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and is for entertainment purposes only. Episodes may contain adult humor and language. For full terms and conditions, see Film and TV Review.com.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Film and TV Review, where we look back at the film and TV offerings of the last month. I'm joined by our host regulars, Richard, Alfonso, Andrew, and James. Hello, and welcome.
Hello.
So we've got quite a few titles in a short period of time, actually, towards the end of summer. Deadpool Wolverine, Borderlands, Alien Romulus, Rings of Power, Trap, Terminator Zero series, Sing Sing, and the Cape Crusader animated series. I think we'll just crack on because quite a lot to get through. So, I think going back a bit with the big movie of the year, or expected to be, was the return of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool in a long-awaited comeback of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and that was, I think, Deadpool and Wolverine, or Deadpool versus Wolverine, that hit the cinemas. So, worth the wait. We'll start with Richard. Richard, what did you think of
The
Deadpool
good thing is
Wolverine?
that I think that some people here have different opinions, so that's going to be interesting.
Indeed. Yeah.
But honestly, yeah. So it was a good movie experience, to be honest. I didn't look at my watch, so that's the good thing to start with a blockbuster, because obviously it is a blockbuster. It is the 20, 30, whatever movie within the MCU, especially since actually, and that's actually an important element, since actually Fox has been bought by Disney, so now actually they can actually have Deadpool in the MCU now. And I don't know how to actually I don't know. Let's start. I'll just give my personal opinion. Yeah, I think actually that it was a very funny movie with 1,000 Easter eggs and 1,000 actually references to other movies, other characters of other movies, and especially references and character from other movies within the Fox Marvel era of the 2000s. And that's actually a good thing for me, because I'm a movie goer. But at the same time, I'm thinking this movie is made for moviegoers only, because all these jokes and Easter eggs, in my opinion, were actually made for people who love movies and also for people actually who love what's happening behind the scenes. And because of that, I wonder actually if it's overall a good movie, because it felt like, for me anyway, a succession, like jokes in a row, but also that said every single scene was, oh, this guy from this movie from 2002, whatever, and oh, and this guy from this movie, etc. Which is fine because I love these things and that's my hobby. But does it make it an interesting movie from point A to point Z? I don't think so, in my opinion. Now that being said, again, at least the cast was really into it. You cannot deny that Hugh Jackman doesn't deliver a good performance. He actually take it very seriously, and thank God. However, I think Ryan Reynolds is for me again, is kind of reaching the end of his, I mean, not of his career, but not of his part of his career, I hope, because it feels like actually I keep seeing Ryan Reynolds doing Ryan Reynolds in every single movie. And it can become boring because it's kind of jokes after jokes after jokes. He never takes anything seriously in his movies anymore. It's hard actually to see him it would be good to see him in something else. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I think Ryan Reynolds is particularly a persona, and Deadpool as well, where it's a very meta and it's a very introspective look at the medium, whether it's comics or whether it's the cinema, which his film was. It kind of reminded me a bit of, when DC did The Flash, and it was more like a diorama of, hey, do you remember this? This is how all our properties that we have, in case we sell it, this is a very good showcase. I mean, it did what it, I mean, quite honestly, it did deliver what you just want, what you expect, nothing more. But it's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That is just part of the industry and the business. But it is really, yeah, it's, I mean, I liked it. It's just that I don't love it, but it was just good to see. That's it. Andrew, did you see Deadpool Wolverine? What's your thoughts on?
Yeah, definitely it's something entertaining. I don't know if it's something I would necessarily think about. It's one of those, you see it, particularly opening weekend or close to opening weekend, and you have all the, like Richard said, all the cameos, all the little Easter eggs, and then during the closing credits, just behind the scenes footage of the previous films that were referenced, not just from Fox, but or even the MCU, but also New Line. So, because people forget that was also part of it. So it's just the idea that you had all these other characters and all these other Marvel properties that existed before the MCU existed in films and other things, TV. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely fun. But again, I don't know if it's something I would think much about. It's just one of those, like, oh yeah, this happened or that happened, or this internet meme or that thing. A lot of stuff, online, people copying stuff they've seen in the movie. I mean, in terms of the safer stuff. Like I like the opening scene. Like that's something that's been copied a lot on the internet. So, but in a non-violent way. And yeah, no, it's entertaining. Provided for a good stuff online through a certain YouTuber pitch meetings. So he was pretty funny with that. So yeah, no, that's really all I have to say about it. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of curious where the MCU is going to go forward, but that's a whole other thing. So.
Thanks. James, Alfonso, anything you just want to chip in about that?
Well, it's the Ryan Reynolds show. It kind of chronicles his ascent into the heights of Hollywood, because when Ryan Reynolds made Blake Lively, they both met doing Green Lantern, and that was Ryan Reynolds doing another superhero which had little of his personality, and this is all Ryan Reynolds. And from Green Lantern, Ryan Reynolds is now not only at the top of Hollywood, but also multi-millionaire, because all of his businesses have been very successful, or most of his businesses, and he has, I don't know how many, like 200 something millions or 400, I don't know, like a lot. And so it's been the summer of that couple, and good for them. Talking about the movie itself, as in the MCU, I think it's quite inconsequential. I liked it. I think it's a good film. I enjoyed it. I saw it with the right audience on the premiere day. I knew what I was going for. There were cheers. There were laughter. You gotta find your audience, and at the same time, when it finishes, you know that what you have seen is, well, it's a kind of almost a standalone film inside of the MCU. There's no consequences that I can think of. It's like a little bit like the 3 Spider-Mans movies. And I don't know. I think it's interesting. I like the way in which it has used all the Fox things, basically, to surprise people, but yeah, maybe a little bit more weight into the whole universe would have been also good, but I don't know if I can ask everything of the film.
Right. Yes. Well, anyway, that probably was the film where it's more of an event thing now, cinema is. So I think it was one of those things, and actually kind of delivered, but instantly forgettable as well. Right. Talking about forgettable. Next, Richard, another long-awaited franchise was Borderlands. Now I know
Just so we start, am I actually the only one who's seen this thing before?
you're the only one on Earth that has seen
The only person on Earth, yeah.
So please, what did I miss out in Borderlands? Which was,
Ryan George saw it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Of course, those who don't know, is a long-awaited film adaptation and long gestation and long hiding.
Yeah, very long gestation. Yeah.
For the video game.
In a previous recording, Alfonso mentioned actually what kind of development hell this movie went through, and since he said that, I was kind of worried. And let's face it, yeah. Okay, let's not talk much about this movie. I'm gonna try to keep it's not worth it. Yeah, it is a very good video game. Let's start with this thing and just play the video game. Honestly, it's very fun. It's very inspired by the Mad Max franchise, but it's on another planet. That's the difference with Mad Max, but it's very Mad Maxy. And in the video game, you are one guy who actually, you can play one of the characters and you have to find the vault. That's actually the story of the movie, by the way. They didn't go far from it. And you have to find the vault, which is kind of an alien thing, or treasure, whatever, on this planet called Pandora. Nothing to do with James Cameron. And this vault apparently has a lot of power and a lot of great weapons. That's how to sum up actually the game, and literally that's how to sum up the movie as well, because the movie is literally almost every single big character of Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 trying to get to the vault before a very bad CEO guy who is like a random villain, and the leader of these characters into movies is Lilith, played by Kate Blanchett, who's been, people have been joking around actually that Lilith in games is like 22 years old, and Kate Blanchett, she's gorgeous, but she's like 60 or something. But that's actually not the problem of the movie. The movie is just I think it's an hour and a half long, and it feels like it's like 10 hours long. I'm even joking. I was saying that actually I didn't look at my watch for Deadpool Wolverine. I looked 10 times at my watch for Borderlands. Literally nothing happens most of the time. It should be a quest. It's not a quest. They try to have some banter, some jokes like Guardians of the Galaxy. It doesn't work. It's so sad. I can laugh at anything. I'm such a bad audience because I laugh at anything. I didn't laugh a second at this movie. Yeah, it's predictable. Every single second, you know what's going to happen. You know how the movie is going to end after 2 minutes. Yeah, that is so sad because I tried to think since I said, try to say something good about this movie, but there is literally nothing. Not one cast member take it seriously, so who cares? The direction makes no sense. The CGI the CGI on ITV of X-Files in the 90s were better. The ending is terrible. I mean, the climatic scene at the end, like the big battle, my God, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm done. Don't watch this movie. Yeah, that's my recommendation. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, this kind of just disappeared. I don't think it even engaged in any kind of like audience kind of like awareness that kind of came and went. So even before any reviews came in, but anyway, I'm sure they'll learn from the mistakes in the sequel. Okay, so next another
that's our next
franchise is another big IP to return to screens was, of course, Alien Romulus. Now, definitely, I'm a long-time fan. James, I know you are also. So, I think we have slightly differing opinions on this, James. But first, what did you think of Alien Romulus? Again, a return, a kind of like a sequel and prequel at the same time between maybe Alien Aliens.
Well, actually, I do think that it is a sequel in some ways to Aliens. It's a standalone film. The idea when people keep saying it's a prequel to Aliens, I mean, obviously it happens before, but it's kind of irrelevant. I know that
it's an
there is
interval,
sort of,
so yeah.
I mean, obviously in the timeline, but it's not like it's setting up things that, I mean, I don't know how spoiler it is, but there's nothing at the end that then links into Aliens. In actual fact, it kind of goes off in another direction. It's probably closer to something like Rogue One, where it's sort of a standalone thing. We were talking just earlier about things that don't have any consequence. It's sort of it tries not to stand on the toes of the other films, but it goes and does its own thing. So this is like the seventh Alien film, or the ninth if you count the Alien versus Predator films. So my expectations have been severely lowered over the years about these things, to the point that I was just like, they're going to do another one. I kind of liked Covenant, but it wasn't very successful, and I was just sort of I thought maybe the Hulu series would come along. It's also directed by Fede Alvarez, who did the 2013 version of Evil Dead, which I was not a fan of. Not because I'm a massive fan of the original. I thought there was some great creature work in it. But I thought it was just sort of, there wasn't many jump scares, and it was a bit meh. But then I did check out Don't Breathe just before this, and I was like, oh, that was quite tense. Maybe this will work. But I still tried to keep my expectations relatively low. But I did kind of enjoy it. I think, as I said before, you have to accept with films like this. I think that Alien and Alien sort of broke the mold, and I think particularly with Aliens and with Terminator 2, they become this thing of, can it be reinvented? Can it be reinvented? And they, particularly with the Alien franchise, they spent a lot of time trying to reinvent it and falling flat on its face. And I like the fact that this kind of tried to play to its strengths and just be a horror film. I actually think, though, that the thing that impressed me most is kind of quite cared about the characters in it. I really like the actors. So Kaylee Spaney, who's been in Priscilla this year in the title role, and of course she's in Civil War as well. And then you've got David Johnson playing her brother. it's quite revealed early on what the sort of thing is there. But I really like that sort of brother sister relationship. He's great in Rye Lane, which is a British rom-com that's on Disney Plus if anyone hasn't seen it. But here, a bit spoilery, but he kind of ends up playing almost like two roles as the film goes on. But I kind of liked how analog everything felt. They do a lot of stuff at the start of making it really feel like you are set in maybe a world that was created in 1979, even though it's meant to be in the distant future. And this is set 40 years. Is it 20 years after Alien? I think 20 years after Alien. Yeah, and I really liked it. So Rain and her brother are kind of the mine workers, and they sort of can't get out of this dead end job. They've lost both their parents to lung disease in the mines, and then they're given the opportunity by some of their friends that they're going to go and basically burgle a space station. And obviously, when we get there, the film is called Alien, so we know that that's coming. So I really sort of like that. I know there is a lot of people have sort of said there is a line which they quote from the franchise. To be honest, when I've rewatched it, that's bothered me a lot less because it's 3 seconds and it's tonally weird. It doesn't really work, but it's like it doesn't really ruin my enjoyment of the rest of the film. So I mean, it's not as good as Alien or Aliens, obviously, but like it was much better than I thought it would be. So I'd sort of give it like 4 stars, I think. But it kind of works. And then in the end, they sort of do their own thing in the last maybe 50 minutes, although people have said there is maybe a parallel with Alien Resurrection in that final thing. But I like that. There's also something that I want to say that if they do a sequel to this, which they're inevitably going to do, because this is actually really surpassed expectations. I mean, blockbusters have been quite low this year. Well, quite a few of them anyway haven't really pulled in the money that they expect. But this is like in the top 20 films last I've seen. I think word of mouth's getting around. I know this shouldn't be the low bar, but people are going, "Oh, it's not rubbish," because most of the other Alien films that we've had have been like rubbish or just odd, like Alien Resurrection. So I think people are kind of getting on board with it. And maybe there's a generation now as well for who Alien looks a bit dated and a little bit sort of slow paced, and this maybe is a good way for them to get on board. So I thought, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by it.
Yeah.
Not your view, obviously, Jason.
Well, no, more or less I agree with most of what you say, actually. It is, I think the aliens themselves they did a lot of puppetry work, a lot of old school, not so much CG, but actual in-house legacy stuff with the look of the alien. It's like full 9-foot kind of like puppets, and they look very menacing actually, because you see that it's not just an actor in a suit; it's actually an animatronic and all that. Some small expansion to the lore, but it does kind of initially keep quite pared down to what it is, a heist movie, but then it becomes the haunted house.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and some nice tropes. Most of it I really did like, and the production looks fantastic, so it looks beautiful on a cinema. I did there's special mention to David Johnson, who said I think standout performance there. I think a dual role there and a nice twist on stuff. It's just that I'm a bit of a purist, and it does feel almost a bit like, oh, do you remember this film? Do you remember this entry? Do you remember that? And there's a bit of that, but maybe we've got to a point where we've got so much sequels and this world thing, it's hard to avoid. I agree. 4 out of 5, maybe a bit less. It's that line, though. It is sacks of a very awful, non-thinking, surprising line that comes out of Aliens, and which has, a line in context. It's all been building up to that point. But just to randomly drop it into a scene which has no place in being, which is basically.
I mean, there is, to be fair. So there is when I've rewatched it, there is an element of one character constantly call. Oh, it's difficult to say without spoilers. I mean, I'd like to spoil it because I think everyone knows what it is. But there is an element of one of the other characters saying something to this character, which I think is where that's meant to come from. And actually, the start of the line kind of does make sense because at that moment, there has been a change in the character's motivations, which characters' motivations have changed throughout, and then it changes again. But yeah, it's one of those things. I was the anti-gravity sequence though is really kind of cool, and I think it might be taken from one of the books, but it's something that there's no way you couldn't have put that on screen in 1970. There was no way to have done it, so it's kind of nice to see that put in there. I think.
Yeah, but I can see. I think the budget was about 80 million, so it's kind of made its money back. It's not huge. It's a mid budget kind of thing. So it's made its money, which I'm very pleased about. So I wouldn't mind the sequel, but it is more revisiting the old favorites, as you say.
I have a question for James.
Yeah. Go ahead.
James, there was a French YouTuber who said something very smart, in my opinion, again, about Alien Romulus. He said actually that it felt like it was kind of the Star Wars 7 of the Alien franchise. And why he said that is because he's saying Star Wars 7 of the Alien franchise is because Star Wars 7 wasn't that bad, but in the end, it was, and kind of following what you were saying, is that it was clearly made to try to attract a new generation to the franchise. And secondly, it was also very, very much, don't want to say copy-paste because it's almost a copy-paste in Star Wars 7, but definitely kind of reusing exactly the same story elements of Star Wars 4. And you can say that it's true that the story doesn't the franchise doesn't reinvent itself with Romulus, but doesn't mean actually that it's not a bad movie. It's actually still a good movie, but yeah.
I think that's maybe the problem with sequels generally. I mean, actually, when I sort of look at my favorite films of this year, and I'm not trying to make a point, but apart from maybe this one, which isn't like in the top 10 or anything, I've sort of almost got a little bit sick of sequels because it is that thing of you're just going back for more of the same. But when I say about things that have reinvented, and really with Aliens and Terminator 2, what we mean is they started off as low budget claustrophobic movie or lower budget claustrophobic movies, and then they had the budget to do something more action orientated, and that's what James Cameron wanted to do. And also there was a lot of story left over. But I think with this, it has got to that point where it's like, just do an Alien movie like with James Bond. You know what you're getting when you go into a James Bond movie. If they try and reinvent that, people don't like it. It's like people want these elements. And actually the idea of that people say about I mean, it's true to an extent that the Alien, we've seen it now, so it's less scary, but a man can be scary in a film. So as long as you keep them in darkness a little bit and do some jump scares and all that sort of thing. I mean, actually personally, I didn't jump that much in it, but I know some people who thought it was really, really tense. So yeah, I just thought it is quite functional. Maybe there's that thing of as a franchise goes on for longer, it becomes easier to do one that's right in the middle. So I'm sure if I ranked all the Alien films, it would be right in the middle. Whereas early on, it's kind of Alien 3 is a disappointment, Alien 4 is a disappointment. But after you've got Alien versus Predator 2, it's never going to get worse than that. So they're okay now. You know.
Yeah, the goalposts are very wide now, very wide. All right.
I did think as well with Prey, like Prey was really unexpected, but it wasn't a cinema film. I know it was sort of developed during COVID and sort of, but people really loved that. And I was like, I can't see that happening again. I think they just got lucky. But it's kind of, I think what's impressive with this one, a bit like with when you think of, and I know they're different franchises, but they've been linked. But when they did The Predator, which was the Shane Black one, it was kind of like them trying to do an MCU Predator film, and it just felt weird. And then Prey goes back to that thing of it just being a beast in the elements, a hunter in the elements, and that's kind of what the strength of the thing is. I mean, it's amazing they haven't really ever done a proper spiritual sequel, I mean, to Aliens. They haven't done like a big marine action film because that seems like the most obvious thing to do as a tentpole. But now maybe this has been successful, they will actually up the budget because I did check the budget afterwards as well, Jason. I thought this is doing okay, but is it going to be like, with Ghostbusters 2016, which I quite liked, where they put so much money into it, you just go, that's never going to recoup that budget. And we've had a lot. I know they've been COVID ones, but we were talking about Fast and the Furious 10. The budget is just stupid. Indiana Jones, the last one, that was a budget that it was never going to recoup. And you think, well, who signed this off? And I was quite impressed they kept, particularly with the anti-gravity sequences, that they managed to keep the budget down for this, because that is key. That's why there's so many Paranormal Activity movies, isn't there? Because they cost like 10 quid to make, and they make millions of pounds. So
Yeah. Okay.
Also, there is an upcoming Alien series, Alien Earth. I guess it's coming out next year, and that's with the showrunner Noah Hawley, I believe is his name. He's the same showrunner as Fargo, the TV series, and Legion. So he's going to be doing an Alien series next year, and it's supposed to be set like a few decades before the first Alien film. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll see. Next year. So
okay, good. Right. Next, a very Prime's big series return to for season 2. This is the 1 billion series, The Rings of Power, which Richard, you saw and I saw as well. A very expensive series when it first came out, and still is. I imagine, just looking at it. Season 2 picks up, I think, it's the adventures of Sauron, really, the greatest anti-hero Middle-earthers have seen. What did you think? You kind of like season 1, didn't you?
Well, I'm not part of the group of people who hated the season 1, for sure. I'm not denying actually that it's not perfect, but I still enjoy it overall. Now, I'm not going to talk much about what happened in the first 4 episodes of Rings of Power season 2, because kind of too recent, spoiler-wise. But I think overall the show is getting better. That's for sure. I have no idea if the showrunners are actually following the social media comments to improve, or are they actually believing what they were actually creating in the first place and kind of say, okay, doesn't matter what people say, we're going to keep doing what we think it's good. I hope actually it's the latter. I hope actually that they actually believe in their project, because they had a project from beginning to end of 5 seasons. I think they truly had actually a plan. When you look at season 2 again, without talking about much about what's going on, you believe actually that yes, they do have an idea. The problem, and it's not a problem to me, but it's a problem for a lot of people, that it has less and less to do with what Tolkien has written by the minute. He's just inspired by what he has written between different books, not only Silmarillion, but also Unfinished Tales. Sorry. And I think that's the main divide between the viewers and the fans. If you accept, I said that before for season 1, if you accept that the showrunners wanted literally, they are really fans, I believe they're really fans of Middle-earth, they're really fans of Tolkien work, and they just want to create something original by using some elements of Tolkien world. If you accept this plan, this idea, this concept, I think you will enjoy yourself, because it's worth watching. A bit like what I was saying before, the cast take it seriously. And that's actually a good sign. You can see the efforts behind the camera. They are not just showing up to get money. Like you think that's Amazon, so they don't care. No, actually there is a huge effort made to make this thing work. It's not for everyone. There are things that are very childish, but okay. But in the same time, you had The Hobbit, so it is childish. There are things that sometimes don't make much sense about how the world is created, etc. But these are balanced with interesting character developments, actually, I believe, for the main characters. And and interesting world building. Although it's a very strange world within Middle Earth, but interesting world building that keeps you interested in and invested in the story. And I like to know what's gonna happen next week, so that's a good sign. Yeah, I'm definitely against this. The rejection online every time there's an episode you want, and that's my problem, is that if you don't like something that much, why do you keep watching? That's a mystery of nowadays online. Is that there are people actually who started to hate this thing from episode 1, season 1. And there are still the same people. I can guarantee that you can find still the same people who 2 years later are still watching it just to go online and say, that was terrible, that was BS, etc. So, yeah, but watch something else. I mean, we have so many streaming platforms now, so what are you wasting your time? So I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And I respect people hating some things. I hate stuff, but if I really, really hate something, I stop watching it. So I don't know. That's my problem. Maybe I'm too old for this thing. Maybe I don't know.
I think the less you know about Lord of the Rings, the more you can enjoy this series as just as a starting off point. As in, you just I don't know, which is a whole kind of like generation divide almost. But it does look it is very well photographed. A lot of effort's been put in money in action and tastefully done and well realized. As in, it's the sets, the costumes, and all that. So it's enjoyable. And I think it's improved somehow. I think it's just found its own little niche or what it is. It's the world that is not explored. This is more kind of now looking at Sauron's kind of backstory and rise to power, which is just interesting as he's become more the main character in this series. I think season 1 was Galadriel, and it was more like she was front and center, and that maybe some parts of the internet thought, why are we focusing on this? It seems very an overpowered character. But I kind of as a non-purist, the same with like Star Wars fans. As a non-purist for a new generation, you can just enjoy it for what it is in a vacuum, and that's great. But I'm enjoying the series actually, surprising. Right. Next, I think Emilia Perez was a series someone mentioned, or film. Did you see that, Richard? Oops.
Am I the only one who watched it? Just wondering.
It's only released in France.
Yeah, I don't think it's been released. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised. Not even in Spain, Alfonso?
No, because what happens with the Cannes Festival films is that they have to be released in France soon after they go to Cannes. So that's why I think so, because they usually are. But that, as Emilia Perez is more like it's aiming for awards in this next Oscar season. Yes. Its release schedule, apart from France, it's going to be mostly in the fall season.
Okay. Well, I'm still gonna, even if I talk about it, I might need kind of your help on something, because you mentioned actually that one of the actress is Spanish, and the one actually is gonna run for the Oscar. Is it
Carla Sofia Gascon? Yeah. Carla Sofia Gascon. It's a well, I mean, she wasn't known in Spain. I think most of her career had been in maybe Mexico. But she won the best actress in Cannes, along with all the other actresses of this film who got the best actress prize in Cannes. And she's been positioned as a lead in the awards race, let's say, for the Oscars and whatever comes in between.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm not surprised. I definitely agree. Sorry, I was just checking a name online. I definitely agree. But she's definitely gonna be probably being talked about for the award season. Emilia Perez is by Jacques Audiard, who did probably the best French movies of the last 20 years. And especially, actually, he's one of the few French directors who is known abroad. Perhaps I'm thinking about what are the most famous movies that he made. A Prophet is the one that I can think about straight away. Very good movie with Tahar Rahim. And also another movie more recent with Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly, I believe, called, if I'm not mistaken, The Brothers or something like that.
The Sisters Brothers.
The Sisters Brothers, thank you.
He also did of Rust and Bone with Marion Cotillard.
Rust and Bone, Marion Cotillard, yes, and Matthias Schoenaerts. And he's a very talented director, obviously. And I was joking around saying actually that is he going to fail? Is he going to deliver a bad movie once in his life? And no, Emilia Perez is a very interesting movie. There's a lot of topics in this movie. Don't want to talk much about the story itself, but there's a lot of topics actually, and it's kind of a mix of genre. At the same time, you have kind of a crime movie. When you have perhaps the second most important character, or the most important character played by Zoe Saldana, who is kind of a lawyer, and we starting actually to get contacted by kind of the mafia lord, big mafia guy in Colombia, I believe. So it's kind of, her kind to actually to dealing with this crime organization for some reason. I wouldn't say why. And then at the same time, it has a lot of social comments about identity and who you truly are and who you believe to be, and not identity crisis because it's not the right word, but it's about sexual orientation as well. It's strange actually, but when I say out loud, so many things are been actually. I think it's really well told through the characters of Zoe Saldana and forgot about the name already of the Spanish actress. Okay, Carla Sofia Gascon. Sorry about my pronunciation, Alfonso. But through them actually you are dealing with so many interesting topics, and because they are really heavy topics sometimes. I'm talking about motherhood and as I said, and accepting yourself as you are, because sometimes it's kind of talking about very serious stuff, difficult stuff actually to talk about in a movie. They decided, Jacques Audiard decided to make it as a musical, I guess, and so there's a lot of musical scenes where actually you have people actually singing and dancing. It's like almost a Bollywood movie sometimes. But it's very smart because, there is, for example, not a spoiler, there is a scene where Zoe Saldana is doing a terrific job, by the way. And she's singing among politicians and corrupt politicians. And she kind of talks about corruption and etc. But because she does it in a musical scene, I think it's the message delivered in a better way. I hate musicals usually, but actually I really enjoyed that because, as I said, it's not very easy nowadays to talk about what this movie is trying to talk about. As I said, sexual orientation, identity that you want to change actually at some point in your life, and they do it in a very smart way. So I think we're going to hear a lot about this movie in the award season.
Yeah, and also he's so eclectic, as you said, Jacob. Yeah, he has made Deep and Rust and Bone, The Sisters Brothers, A Prophet, like you said. Now Emilia Perez. Like, these movies don't have anything to do between them. They are so different.
It's true. Yeah, I don't know where this idea come from to actually do something like that after the last project. So it's true. Yeah, no, it's great. And again, who knows? Last year we had Anatomy of a Fall. Maybe we're gonna have another French success at the Oscars next year. Who knows?
I would say so. Yeah, this movie is gonna win something. proven to be very popular.
Yeah, understand why. You will, when you see it, you know why it's popular, and it's also a bit emotional, but you will see why.
Okay. Next, M. Night Shyamalan's return to his thriller roots, I suppose, is Trap. I think that's premise of I'm guessing a twist of some kind, or rather more of a pedestrian thriller. But I think Josh Hartnett and stars in this. With I think it's the premise is what it's they go to see a concert in a venue, but then something goes awry. Who saw this? Andrew, Richard,
Seen it.
James, did you see it?
Yeah, so I'd seen the trailer seems to show Josh Hartnett taking, like I say, his daughter to see a concert, sort of Lady Gaga style concert, and then he's like, I just need to go to the bathroom. He's looking at a phone and he seems to see people that are trapped in a basement. And then you see him in the trailer talking to a guy who says, "Oh, this whole concert is a trap to get the serial killer known as the Butcher." And I thought that looks, look, I'll go and see that. It might be fun. And then someone said to me a few weeks before or a few days before, "Oh, what's the twist going to be?" Because there's always a big twist in these things. I was like, "Oh, I hadn't thought about it. I thought that's the plot." So I suppose it's not a spoiler to say what doesn't happen. So I got very cocky and I was like, "I've worked it out. I've worked it out." And I was like, in the trailer. Oh yeah, yeah, because I messaged you actually. I forgot, Richard, saying, "I bet this is it." And your reaction, I still thought, "I bet this is it." So my theory is that we see these things and we put them together. Nobody's telling us. So I was like, it's not him who's got these people locked in the basement. It's the singer. The singer's got people locked in her basement, and all her fans, they're like mad Swifties, and they don't believe that this woman has got people locked in her basement, and he's an undercover cop trying to expose her. And I stuck with this twist until about 40 minutes in when something happens. I was like, I've got to let this twist go because this doesn't fit what the rest of the film's telling me. The film is pretty much what the trailer is telling you, and it's quite fun. Like Josh Hartnett has a lot of fun in that role. He goes full Norman Bates, like proper, sort of psycho in it. And it's very fun. The woman who plays the singer is actually Sharon's daughter or niece. I mean,
No,
it
it's
really
his older daughter. Yeah,
older daughter, and it gives a
yeah.
sort of like showcases her acting, and I think she wrote all the songs herself as well. So, but yeah, it's maybe that is the twist, that there's not much of a twist for Shyamalan film, but I felt like it was an enjoyable kind of thriller. It's sort of very difficult to talk about. I've sort of kept with the things that are in the trailer because there are things as it goes on and the directions that it takes that I don't want to kind of elaborate on what they are. But yeah, it was kind of it was kind of a fun. It's not really a horror, but it's nice to see a horror that doesn't leave you kind of traumatized. It was kind of like a camp fun horror, if that makes sense. And a lot of it, most of it really is Josh Hartnett sort of really having fun with that villainous role. We hear that the Butcher is someone who's done some horrific things, but we never really see them, so we just sort of have to take the word for it. And in fact, I think there's only really sort of one bit of violence sort of on screen, which is sort of at the end. You sometimes see the people in the basement, and there's the sort of aftermath of various things that happen. But yeah, I thought it was kind of fun, and there's some good music in it as well.
Great. It kind of seems sometimes a bit unfair that we hear like M. Night Shyamalan, and then he's like, okay, twist. We were expecting it, and then kind of thinking, ugh. I don't think he wants to be known as the twist guy when he's making.
Yeah, and I think maybe this is. I mean, I didn't see Old, and actually, there's quite a few of these films that I haven't seen. I obviously have seen The Sixth Sense and Split and things, but like maybe this was him actually trying to do a more mainstream movie. I feel like if you went on a Friday night, that you'd be quite entertained by this. It's kind of like sort of a fun popcorn movie, really. I think popcorn movie.
Yeah, you mentioned Old. Old, this is quite good. It's not as if it's it's a nice premise. It's this high concept thriller, or rather horror, almost like a body horror kind of thing. So, but
Yeah,
it's
and
not.
sometimes he does have some kind of interesting themes and stuff. I don't think there is in this. I did actually go into it I mean, maybe that's the one thing that I thought, oh, maybe this is going to be like a comment on celebrity or fan culture. It isn't really. It's just very much sort of surface, but fun.
Fair enough. Right. Next, what seems to be the era of returning to franchises, but Terminator Zero is an animated series based on the James Cameron Terminator movies, or that era, or that world. We've had quite a few films that have worked around this IP to different levels of success. James, I know you are a big franchise lover of this. Did you see Terminator Zero?
Well, I'm 2 episodes in. In fact, my intention was to binge this on the day. I really like the fact that Netflix released it on Judgment Day, 29th of August.
Again, I've seen
And now
2 episodes as well, same as you, actually. So
my intention was to binge it, but I ended up going to watch Terminator 1 and 2 back to back on a big X Plus screen on Judgment Day. So that was quite nice. And then I've just been quite bit. So I kind of didn't actually want to just binge them and have them on the background. So I've kind of sat and watched the first two. It's kind of odd in a way. It's sort of like Studio Ghibli does Terminator, Castle in the Skynet, something like that. But I suppose it's like the RoboCop. But sorry, I've said it. There we go. The RoboCop TV series of animated series from 1988, which is almost like, it starts off feeling very odd, and then as it goes on, it actually feels like it's become its own thing. So this is basically a guy, I think it's Malcolm Lee is the character, and he's kind of like the Japanese equivalent of Miles Dyson. So the plot here is that he is working on a rival system to Skynet. I can see Richard rolling his eyes already, but it's sort of the
No, don't misunderstand me. I wasn't wondering actually, and didn't read anything, and I was wondering how it fits in the franchise. So now I'm trying to understand. Okay.
So this guy and his 3 children are and it's very much like some of these scenes actually. It starts off with a sort of future war Terminator coming in and murdering people in a much more bloody fashion than the films ever did actually. So it's very sort of violent, like if you watch something like Ninja Scroll or something, but that's what it does. And then you cut to these scenes where it does feel tonally like you are watching a Studio Ghibli film. So you've kind of got like the 3 children. They've got like a cute robot dog, and they've got like a robot as well. Or there's a robot that's sort of cute and doesn't look like it's made by Skynet. A bit like the T1 in Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, actually. And so something is sent back in time to chase the whole family to get them, and that's where I'm at. My only reservation maybe about this is that it's trying to tell a familiar story but within 8 episodes. We sort of talked about this with the MCU stuff sometimes, that we were used to having those stories told in 2 hours, and suddenly they were being told in 10 hours. But I'm quite enjoying it. That it's not like the best animation, like something like I always think Batman Ninja looked really, really great. But it worked. It's good enough for what it is. There's some times when it looks very hand drawn, and then you think, oh, they've done that. That looks very, sort of done digitally by computer. But it's sort of fine. I mean, I don't. I'd be interested if it's got any fans outside of the franchise. So it is one of these things. After saying that, I've had a year where I've not been interested in returning to franchises much. To have a new Alien film and a new Terminator film, Terminator TV series in the same month is a bit of a dream for me. But to be honest, and maybe if I was really loving this, I would have binged 8 episodes. So it wasn't like I can't wait for the next one. But but it's fine, and I will be doing episode 3 later tonight.
Can you watch it without knowing anything about Terminator?
I think you probably could, and this is the thing, that when you were talking about Alien Romulus earlier, it would be interesting to know, because clearly Alien Romulus is getting people to watch it that maybe aren't fans of this, that are new to the franchise. And maybe there is a big, we've got the new Beetlejuice film has been released today. I wonder how standalone that is. But I think with this, I mean, maybe if you watch this as Terminator Zero as a standalone, you would think it was more original than it is. Because I think if you're a fan, you kind of see the parallels with the movies. And actually, apart from Terminator Salvation, they've never really gone into the future war stuff. And maybe it does later in this series, but they always retread the robots being sent back to stop stuff happening rather than showing us what that stuff happening actually is. So I thought maybe that would be what this is about. Maybe it will move on to that, but so far it sort of makes sense. Having said that, I don't know. It could get to episode 8 and it's got like Arnold Schwarzenegger doing a cameo voiceover or something, and loads of like deep in jokes about Terminator Genesis. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I think I'm just watching this first episode. It's quite it's quite hard as in how to put, or say, new perspectives on very old franchises, decades old, and what something new or a new take or something fresh. And I think this is quite interesting, as in it does look at a bit of the future war, but a bit more on the ground uprising and the kind of like how they form their little bands and all that. There's a little bit of that, but then a lot of it is set in 1997 or just before Judgment Day, and I think it's trying to look at technology and a family life, and we're on the verge of do we trust technology, or is it useful or not, and how it is kind of like seeding itself into our life. So those domestic scenes are quite interesting, as in, just to look at small gradual steps how we go towards this kind of like singularity of Judgment Day. But it's only 2 episodes in, and it's intriguing enough to go watch the whole 8 episodes, I suppose. But
there's a bit in Terminator 2 where Arnie says it's in your nature to destroy yourselves, which is not. It's a really bad impression, bad throw. But there was a bit in episode 2 of this where they really go into quite depth about sort of man's tendency to destroy itself over the years and its addiction to war and things like that.
Yes.
And I was like, that was a moment where I was like, okay, they're actually sort of getting to grips with what this is about, rather than just doing an animated series. And it's nice when that kind of happens, not massively, but I was like, oh, that's interesting, because they didn't necessarily have to do that. And I was like, is there going to be more of that, or just more of robots stomping on people's heads? We'll see. You want both, really.
Well, we did have both. I mean, episode where it starts out just balls out. That's exactly what it is. And thinking, okay, is this, because you're trying to think, what is the tone of this series? And you can see that. I said, okay, that is quite good. Nicely, it's a nice violent gore fest almost. But then it goes into this season, episode 2, and you have deep discussions of the nature of man, and Skynet. Well, is Skynet the bad guy? Because he's talking to an AI, and it's kind of like, hopefully that will counteract what Skynet is doing. And it's very philosophical discussion between an AI and its creator, and saying, well, is Skynet really, what is his end plan really? I mean, just to survive? And he said, I never thought me on that point. And then it kind of opens it up to, well, it's really just a tool that man has done systematically, and it is just your self-destruction that is so it does seem to be pushing the envelope to questions outside the basic premise of survival.
And I think those themes are quite, obviously they've been really prevalent in the past couple of years, like fear of AI, because that's really what the first film is about, is the fear of technology and nuclear war, isn't it? Which was a big thing
in the nuclear war
in the 80s. I mean, it kind of has never gone away in a sense, but it was very much in the public consciousness in the 80s. And now the sort of fear of AI thing, and how things have moved on, that is something that's quite sort of interesting. And actually, really, the films have never, since the second one, have never gone into that, because they've just been big budget blockbusters, and that's not what they're there to do. But that is the kind of interesting, all the meat that you can get into of it. But we'll see as it goes along.
Terminator Genesis tried to actually to be kind of accurate about the problems of its time, because I remember actually Terminator Genesis trying to show that it was smartphones and applications would actually kill us all, but didn't work.
I can't remember that, and I'm going to have to watch it. I don't doubt that it is.
I think it was a story of
there is.
I think it was like an app that was be downloaded to all the smartphones in the world in like 2 hours, and actually the app was kind of Skynet in disguise or something like that.
But I mean, that's just the truth. Is that we've got no like, what's the word? See, I can't even finish the sentence. We've got no focus anymore. We can't like focus on anything for more than 30 seconds because we're just so used to like TikToks and stuff now. So maybe this is what they've wanted all along. Skynet is behind mobile phones, but I quite enjoy TikTok. So,
right. Well, from that to a different series on Netflix called Respire. I think it's Spanish, but maybe Breathe in this country. Alfonso, you brought this to our attention. What is Breathe or Respire? What's the premise?
Sí, respira. In Spanish, which translates to breathe. It's the new series from the creator of Elite, this very successful teen show that has been at least very successful in many countries. And this is his version of Grey's Anatomy. Let's say it's a bunch of residents that come as newcomers to a hospital in Spain, which is in the city of Valencia. And it not only, I mean, it's very commercial. It's very like kind of a Grey's Anatomy kind of style, but also it talks about one of the big topics at least in the first season is the privatization of the public health system, or how the public health system is being there is a menace that is happening, that is like less resources directed towards the public health system and more towards the private health system. And so it talks a lot about that and how some politicians are doing it, and basically providing less public services within the health system. So there's a little bit of that too. It's one of the main storylines, and I liked it because it's kind of, it moves fast. It has actors from Elite, from La Casa de Papel, from Cable Girls or Las Chicas del Cable, from many of these international successes of Netflix in the Latin world, in the Spanish-speaking world, or series that are speaking in Spanish but have been watched in many countries, like La Casa de Papel, for example, and which I don't remember the name in English that they sold it as, but
Money Heist.
Money Heist, yeah. And so I think it can be pretty successful as a, let's say, as a Grey's Anatomy in Spanish with a little bit more political kind of commentary to it. Although I have to say that in Spain, as it has been a little bit divisive because of the topics that it talks about. It's kind of a little bit edgy, just a little bit. So, and quite commercial at the same time. So when you're quite commercial and a little bit you want to talk about serious topics, some people are going to be like, you're trying to have it both ways. But I thought it was an interesting recommendation. I saw the first 2 episodes and I liked them.
Okay, thanks. Right. Another series, or I think a film called Sing Sing. Andrew, you brought this. What's this?
kind of weird that more people didn't check it out. It's just one of those things because it got more of an art house thing. It's an A24 film, so it got really. It's a U.S. film, and it was released in the UK. But again, it's just one of those things that just people were like, maybe not. It kind of went under the radar. Again, A24, so it didn't get necessarily the widest release. At the same time, a lot of great reviews, and it's something that possibly could be talked about come awards season. We'll see. But it's a film sort of based on real events. It's not specific real characters, real people, but based off of real people. And what the film's about, the title refers to prison, about 30 miles or so outside of New York City. And they have, in real life, as in the movie, a rehabilitation through the arts program where the incarcerated, the prisoners take part in different plays or different shows, different theater programs at the prison. So this story is somewhat an adaptation of what is going on, real life at the prison. And what makes the film unique is, other than, I guess, you have Coleman Domingo as the main character, and Paul Ratchie, I believe that's his name, from Sound of Metal. He's in the film as well. But other than them, most of the rest of the cast is non-actors or people who were actually incarcerated or formerly incarcerated and actually have taken part in this program at Sing Sing. So that's what makes the film kind of unique. It kind of gives them more of a realism to it. And it was filmed in different places that were not at Sing Sing itself, but other correctional facilities, not anymore in use. But so there's very much a sense of, you're watching what's really happening. And there's not an overall narrative, but it's just the idea of, they're taking part in this program and putting on this production, and it's a production that they created. And yeah, he's a very good actor. He's done a lot of stuff, film, TV, theater. So I could see him in this role. And then during the credits, without going too spoilery, you do actually see, as with similar stories like this, footage of the real participants in this program. So it's something worth checking out. Again, not the usual summer fare, but it is something. Yeah, again, A24. So yeah, definitely liked it, and be curious to see what happens in award season.
Yeah.
So.
It's really, really, really good. So I caught this, and
you saw it in movie theaters, guys? Just asking because I can't find it in print.
Yeah, just last week I think it was out in the UK, but it's not a very wide release.
Yeah,
it's
A24. So
okay,
it's not out in Spain.
Yeah, A24 isn't known for doing like wide types, blockbuster stuff.
I mean, it will be at some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe the subject matter as well, because I mean, it's funny to say that, but like with Shawshank Redemption, obviously widely considered one of the best films of the 90s. Is about prison, but it's a Stephen King adaptation, isn't it? Which sort of gets it over the line with a mainstream audience. And I think as soon as you start talking about prison and rehabilitation, that a lot of people just don't want to know. I don't know, but it felt really uplifting, this film, and not in. It's weird to say that because if someone had told me that before I went to it, I'd have gone, yeah, no, it's not. I'd have been very cynical about it. And I think it's there's some moments in it without, I don't want to spoil it, but where it could have gone too far. It could have been too syrupy, and it could have alienated the audience. But it doesn't feel like, it's not like too hard hitting in the sense that you don't see too much of the grit of what the characters have done in the past. It's just about what they're doing and who they are at the moment. and how they're finding kind of solace in performing. And it comes through really well. And one character is sort of a mentor to another. And the fact that most of these actors were themselves probably in this program, I think, and that's what they've done. You know, you go, so there's some really amazing performances in it, really emotional, very funny as well in places. So I did laugh a lot because they're kind of doing, they all have different ideas of what amateur dramatics production they want to do. So to placate them, they kind of do a mishmash script of lots of different things. So it's got a bit of Hamlet, a bit of Robin Hood,
like
a bit
time
of
travel,
slapstick,
yeah.
and they kind of just make us. The guy just writes a script to make them happy that they can all get their teeth into different roles in it.
Yeah, that's an actual production that's been put on that program, from what I understand.
Brilliant,
So,
yeah. But yeah, I thought I really knew not very much about it, and I thought it was fantastic. Yeah.
Okay. Next, my old ass. So, American comedy.
Oh, have you got Tourette's there? What's going on?
No,
no, that's the name of the film.
It's a porn movie you want to talk about, Andrew.
It's a
no one wants to see
it's
that.
not. Yeah, see, it's probably Aubrey Plaza's idea. I don't know, but I'm guessing. All joking aside, I may not just be up to her. It's an expression. It's not like, in spite of the provocative title of the movie, it's not really like that much at all, really. It's just called that because it's an expression, like, get your, over here or move your, so like
in
my
theory,
old
age term.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Anyway, it's
so
an
basically
comedy.
What?
It's an American.
It's a dramedy.
Dramedy, yeah.
So it's a little bit more serious as the film progresses, and it's maybe more serious than the marketing and certainly the title would have you believe. But there are funny moments as well. And basically what kicks off the plot is that this teenager, she's just graduated high school. She lives in a small town in Canada. We'll get to that in a moment. And she's basically about to head to university in the fall, and a sort of like a last chance to hang out with her old friends in that community. They go on a mushroom trip, or magic mushroom trip, and while she's going on this mushroom trip, drug trip, she sees an older version of herself, and that's where the title comes in, like my old ass, the older version of myself. The main character, the younger version, is played by Maisie Stella. I don't know if you know her from the singing duo with her sister, Lennon and Maisie. And then the older version of the character is played by Aubrey Plaza. So Aubrey Plaza's character, as the older version of the character, is telling the younger version, be careful, all these cautionary things. And the younger version's like, yeah, whatever, and focus on all these other things. So it starts out a little bit more humorous, but then it gets a little bit more serious as the film progresses. And it is a good film. I know the title may be, and the marketing and Aubrey Plaza being in the film. Aubrey Plaza isn't in the film that much. I mean, she's significant, in who she plays, but it's really more Maisie Stella. That's the main character. And it becomes, I'll just say, emotional. I won't say much more beyond that. Yeah, it's definitely more serious than the title would have you believe, but yeah, good film. Maisie Stella was good. I guess the main role, Aubrey Plaza, is good in doing a more serious role than you would expect from her. People associate her with just comedy, but she has done some more serious things. Also, can't remember his name, the actor who plays Xavier on the Wednesday Addams series. He's in this film quite a bit. And as I said, this is in a town set in Canada, and it's very rare for a film from the US to actually be set in Canada. Filmed, yes, it happens all the time, financial reasons. But this is actually set in Canada, and it's kind of a plot point too. The idea that she's moving from a small town in Canada to going to University of Toronto, the big city in Canada. So that's kind of a whole thing, moving to the big city, and what that's like. Going from one environment to another. So yeah, it's a poignant film. It I saw it at an advanced screening, so uh, it's getting, I guess, a platform release in the U.S. What they call, it starts out in a few cities and then moves into wider release, and then I believe it's supposed to be released in the UK at the end of the month as well. So yeah, I mean, it's worth checking out. As I said, it's more serious. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think that's when it's getting released in many markets on the 27th of September. So, so yeah, I mean, it's worth checking out. So that's just what I thought of it.
Um, Another title, Blink Twice, which is I think a thriller that you mentioned, Andrew. Channing Tatum and Zoe Kravitz in this. This like a high
The
concept
Zoe Kravitz directed.
directed as well. Oh, she directed.
No, she's not in the film. Well, she has a cameo because
Oh.
the directors do that, but it's actually her, I guess, directorial debut, I think.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, so I mean her romantic, or whatever you call Channing Tatum. Uh, I don't know what their status is, but he is sort of one of the main characters. The lead character is played by Naomi
Aki.
Aki, yeah, the one who played Whitney Houston in
Whitney
the
Houston,
biopic. Yeah, so she's the main character, and there's some other familiar faces in the film, but I mean, I don't want to, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the film, um, without trying to give too much away, because it's very much one of those, you see something and then it sort of makes you, if you ever go back and rewatch it, sort of like, okay, how does this work and how does that, kind of one of those films. Um, so basically, the setup is that she and this friend of hers, who's played by Aaliyah Shawkat, I believe that's the actress's name. The two of them are co-workers at a catering company, and they encounter this successful, because he's like an internet personality, business guy, played by Channing Tatum, and he invites them to his private island. The two of them and some other people, they get invited to go on holiday to his private island, and yeah, some weird stuff happens, and it starts out humorous, but I'll just say things take a very dark turn. So yeah, that's all I'll say, because it's one of those. Yeah.
It's got an amazing cast actually as well, because it's got everybody who was famous in the 90s.
Haley Joel Osment, Kyle
Gina Davies,
yeah.
Christian Slater, people you haven't seen for years.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I was really impressed by this, to the point that I was like, well, Zoe Kravitz must have directed about 10 films to have done this, and it's really impressive. It's very dark film that I don't know how this has got a 15 certificate in the UK. And if you go on the BBFC website, they've got a very long article defending why they've given it a 15. You think, if you need to write that much to defend it being a 15, it's an 18. Just give it an 18. And there is a trigger warning that comes on before, which I'm all for trigger warnings. I saw a play last year and they were smoking on stage. They gave us a warning about that, because you're in a claustrophobic room, and if you've been through some trauma, you might want to know. But a friend of mine's pointing out that the trigger warning also ruins the movie. So Andrew's been very sort of restrained in what he says to try and maintain what some of
I
those
mean, I get
things
why
are.
there would be, because it is triggering, but I don't want to say why.
But it's like, particularly I think I know there's different rules in different countries and things, but we have the BBFC, so it comes up telling you what the film contains, and if it contains one of those things, you'd think you would probably, if you've been through that, you might not want to watch the movie.
Sure.
but it does just feel like an A-tier. I mean, in some ways, the scenes aren't that graphic or explicit, but I think the filmmaking's so good that they feel really shocking. The way that they are juxtaposed with the sort of extraordinary things that are going on with the ordinary, and the manner that's done. But I think it's got a really good ending. It's one of those films, I think, if you see it through to the end, um, it's got something interesting to say. I wonder how many people, because I saw this on a Saturday and it was really, really busy. And although Naomi Aki is the star, it's just Channing Tatum on the poster.
Well,
And I
because
wonder
he's
how
more
many of
familiar
the
to internet.
I wonder how many of the Magic Mike brigade just went thinking, "Oh, this will be fun." It is fun in a sort of set in a dark sense. I mean, there is a lot of black humor going through it, because there was points where I was like, I don't think I should be laughing at that, and it's like, but they are playing it for laughs, and it's not like Get Out, but it's got that kind of juxtaposition of very serious stuff with sort of black comedy, but maybe more so. And it's not a better film than Get Out, I don't think, but it's, it's got interesting stuff going on. Looks great, but I just saw the picture on the poster where he's got a camera, and I assumed it was like a film about Channing Tatum being a private
Yeah,
investigator.
and there's
So
another.
I was so far out. I'd not seen a trailer or anything for this, so I was very shocked by what it was. Really,
Yeah, the trailer made it seem a little more comedic than it was. But the other thing too
right?
is that the title wasn't originally going to be called Blink Twice. They were originally going to give it a different title. I'll just say the title was even more provocative than the film I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So
So
Blank Island.
we're dancing around this because we know, we're out of courtesy for Jason. Jason's going to have to edit it if we say what the original title was. So but I think it's more of a. I mean, it is a thriller, but I say it's sort of. I think it falls into
Horror.
horror, sort of
Oh
real world
yes, definitely. Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, but I thought it was really good, and actually, I did say I never want to see it again. I think I might go and see it again.
Yeah, as I
But I
said,
needed
it's one
some
of
time to
those.
digest it because it was not what I was expecting on a Saturday afternoon. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those where the first time you see it and something happens, and you want to kind of go back and watch it because then you're like, okay, this happened, so does it work a second time, knowing what you know from the first time?
I
That's all
mean,
I'll
the
say
thing
about it.
is, private islands might sound great. They are not a good idea. There's a film called Plane with Gerard Butler last year. Private islands, not a good idea.
But it also, the movie works the whole. I mean, when it was all about fun and more fun, it kind of worked very well for me too. Yeah, as you said, the direction of Zoe Kravitz is very good. It's kind of Jordan Peele-ish in a way, and
Yeah.
kind of magnetic, and
Mhm.
it works really really well. And also because, as it happens with Ali and Romulus, you can stay longer with the characters because you know that something is about to come. You know that there is something that the movie kind of lets you know that the alien is coming, something is coming, so you can stay longer with the characters and knowing them because a part of you is like, there's something here that doesn't that is gonna happen.
Alrighty. Okay, next. Another animated series of Gotham's favorite Cape Crusader, Batman. It's recently come out. And there's some good word of mouth about this. Andrew, you've been watching this.
Yeah, I yeah, actually, because it took me a while to remember that it came out in the past month because I went through it so quickly. But it's it's from some of the same people that did the '90s animated Batman series. It's not in that continuity, but it seems like it's definitely trying to appeal to fans from that, earlier series, uh, just in terms of the look and also the way that Batman, Bruce Wayne sounds. Obviously, it's not the same voice actor. Sadly, Kevin Conroy passed away, but Hamish Linklater, who does the voice, does a good job, at least sounding Kevin Conroy-esque. As I said, it's a different continuity, but the look of it is very much that kind of retro style, ambiguous time period, and yeah, sort of this 40s, 50s, but not quite. And they do some new stuff with the villains and the characters that I don't know how people would feel. But I mean, I like what they've done. I'm kind of curious what they are going to do going ahead, given what happens at the end of, but there is some kind of hints at a future, if they do future installments. And yeah, there's maybe some focus on characters that maybe didn't get, you didn't see as much in the earlier Batman media. But you do have like some of the usual ones, like there's Catwoman or Harley Quinn. I guess was it Two-Face, all that. So they bring back those characters, but in a different kind of way. I mean, what they do with Harley Quinn is certainly different than what you've seen with Harley Quinn in other media. Like people usually think like, oh, Harley Quinn, she's defined by her relationship or past relationship with the Joker, and this is not that way. This is not that Harley Quinn. So she's not defined. She's actually, I mean, I don't want to say too much more about it, but I'll just say it's a different take on Harley Quinn than what you've seen, and how she's been defined in the past. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a good series. Kind of curious if they're going to do a season 2. I guess it's kind of up to Amazon. Again, it's a different continuity from the 90s series, but there's Easter eggs to it and nods to it. So it is going for that feel. And, it's kind of paying homage to it, but at the same time doing its own thing. And yeah, so looking forward to seeing more installments of it. So.
Right. Yeah, it was a great series. That was the 90s series. Had its great look to it, and great writing as well. So right, next. I think we have a film, Kneecap.
Yeah, so Kneecap, not expecting anybody to know about these guys, but they are Irish language rappers who have been doing YouTube videos since 2017. They sort of played festivals, circuits in the UK, and then they're starring in their own musical biopic, which I know we've talked, Richard, many times about how formulaic music biopics can be.
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't involve people playing themselves, and this film is definitely not a formulaic biopic. So it does actually have a lot of people have sort of compared it with Trainspotting, which I should have done because it's one of my favorite films. It's certainly got that energy. It's also got a little bit of maybe Lahane about it as well. So these guys are sort of Irish rappers, like I say, and they're making this. That one of them is arrested basically, and he refuses to speak English where he's arrested, and they have to get a translator in. Now the translator ends up being a music teacher, and in amongst the confiscated things, he has his poetry book, and he says you should start putting these Irish lyrics to music. I make music, and they form this 3-piece band. In the meantime, the Irish language bill is being introduced, which is going to sort of recognise Irish as a language in Northern Ireland. And basically, there's a lot of pushback because, as with all rap songs, the lyrics are largely about women, drugs, and bad behavior, right? And people are saying, you don't need to be doing this because it's actually jeopardizing this bill that's going to recognize the language. But actually what they do is kind of making the language more relevant because they're making it, sort of go viral on YouTube and things like that. There's also a storyline involving one of the characters' fathers, who's played by Michael Fassbender in this, who may or may not be dead, basically. So he's either died or he's faked his own death as a member of the sort of Irish sort of military there. So it's a very interesting film. There's a lot of light and shade in it. It's very, very funny, though. I've seen it a couple of times and he gets very big laughs. It's a very funny film. Lots of really cool music in it. Very anarchic. And I recommend it. And it's called Kneecap, which is also the name of the band.
And it is the sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, it is the Irish entry for the Academy Award for Best International Feature Film. So yeah,
it is. Which I don't know if there has been an Irish entry before.
Yes, there was. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, The Quiet Girl.
No, sorry. No, once wasn't in this category, but once was in the best song or whatever. But I don't think it was as a international feature.
I mean, there's usually only 5 entries anyway, which seems a bit stingy, I think. Isn't it usually 5 for international feature?
5 out of like the 70 or so countries that submit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for that one. Right. Well, I think we've come to the end of a good coverage of what's happened last month. And I'd like to thank my hosts, regular hosts, Andrew, Richard, Alfonso, and James. And for you at home, we'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this film and TV Review.com episode. Catch the latest film and TV reviews, together with regular episode content from the world of film and TV every week. See you soon. Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today.